What is up, guys, and welcome back to OWL by the Numbers, your one-stop spot for all things fantasy Overwatch League. I am your host, I'm Luke Drunk, and tonight we have episode number 34. We're going to be taking a closer look at High Noon Fantasy as they are entering their third year in the Fantasy Overwatch League scene. But before we can jump into the agenda for tonight and introduce you to not only my co-host, but the man, the myth, the legend himself, Soldiering, let me just take a moment to thank everyone who is joining us tonight. And of course, I have to thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So as you can tell, we have a full house tonight. We have 4 people on. Of course, we have my co-host up first. We have Ramses, and, Ramses, we are inching closer and closer to the Overwatch League season. And I just want to know, how has this past week been treating you?
It's been all right. Lots of stuff going on in my personal life, but I've been eager for the games to finally get here, just to get the itch scratched a little bit. I'm ready to stop having a bunch of esports journalists always tell me I'm bad for liking and being excited for the Overwatch League. So let's get the season rolling. I'm ready to go.
And of course, fresh off of our Lord bet that was placed on Wednesday, we have Ed and our Ed. Welcome back.
Yes, the Lord bet. For those of you who, didn't catch that at the end, the bet is the Boston Uprising. I have the Boston Uprising. Totem had... No, I have the Spitfire. Whatever. Spitfire are going to do better than... worse than the Boston Uprising. If Boston is... Yeah, I put Spitfire as number 20. Totem put him at, higher than that. So whoever loses the bet, the other one, their first emote on Twitch has to be the other person's face. So Totem's Twitch emote will be my face.
Yeah.
The big head Ed.
Yeah,
Woo.
I mean, Ed has been campaigning for this for a while, and the only way I was even remotely considering it was through a Lord bet, so we'll see what's going to happen on that end. But, we're not here to talk about our bets that are going to be had as a bet, because the Overwatch League season hasn't started. We're here to talk about High Noon Fantasy, and what better person to have than a returning guest on this podcast, and really the brains behind the operations. We have Soldiering. Soldiering, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you very much.
So, of course, it's, off season. I know you've been a busy man. I appreciate you, of course, taking some time out, because, 3.0 is right around the corner. So before we kind of dive into the newer features that are coming to the platform, I kind of want to rewind the clock a little bit and talk about basically what we have seen from the platform, kind of since the early days. So, initially you guys came out as a pick'em fantasy platform initially, and you guys made a huge leap forward going into the second season when you had the introduction of draft leagues, whether it was standard drafts, doing the unlimited format, as well as raw scoring leagues. And going back, was drafting always a top priority for you in regards to Fantasy Overwatch League?
So whenever I first started, I did the pick'em style because basically I was just cruising Reddit and I noticed how everybody wanted a fantasy league, and it was the September before the season started, and I was like, there's no way I can write that kind of system in time, but I can probably write a pick'em system. So we started with pick'em. I tried to make it a little bit more complex, so it was a little bit more interesting. And then when season 2 rolled around, it was obvious that there wasn't going to be a fantasy offering that was where I thought it should be. So dove right in. That was the longest week of my life, was the week leading up to the launch of that one. I had, out of 7 days leading up to the launch, I had 4 of them without sleep. So that was, by the end of that, I was sick and tired and just miserable. And then we had first week scores crash. So that was really awesome too. But since that, I learned a ton about the system, a ton about what players want. And I was thinking about it a lot this past week, knowing I was going to be on this podcast. And I think what really drives me to do what I do is the community. I'm a lot of people create a product and they try to create a community around that product. Whereas I've learned recently that I'm the exact opposite. I like the community, and I'm going to try to create whatever they want. So in our general chat, if somebody comes with a great idea, I'm willing to spend the extra 5-6 hours to implement that idea if I think it's a good enough idea. And I think that's kind of what drives me, but it's also what makes it so hard is like off-season development's really difficult for me because there's no activity. There's nothing that really inspires you to really put in those hours. Whereas once it starts creeping up, like December rolls around, people start itching for the next season. Then it's like, all right, yeah, I should really start cranking down on this thing again. And then it's just cram time 24/7 like it has been. And now I finally, it's solid. Like the features that are going to be coming out are just a lot better than last season as far as like the way they're tested, their stability. Like we shouldn't have, the weird duplicate players on rosters and teleporting around in the draft and all that weird stuff that was happening due to just figuring it all out. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of let you guys see soon what 3.0 has in store.
Well, it's a little unfortunate having duplicates. I'm sure there are a ton of people out there who would want like 6 Airsters in their lineup. Sorry, guys,
Please.
it's not going to happen on that front.
What?
Yeah, I know, Ed. Sorry. That's going to be your trick method is going to work this time around. So, obviously on this platform, we have had a number of different formats. And I know initially when you had posted, a sneak peek of what is to come in 3.0, you had kind of talked about the amount of like standard leagues that you saw and like the percentage of leagues that were using that format, which was 62% of the leagues on the platform this past season were all standard, which, to me is just a staggering number out there. But do you happen to know offhand, like, what the breakdown was, kind of like between the different formats, like including like unlimited and also like the raw scoring leagues? Was it like so minuscule to the fact where maybe you prioritize one format over the other, knowing that was kind of like the go-to for the majority of the community?
So it's kind of weird how it works. So one of the main reasons I think standard was so much higher was just because the other two league types had more permanence to them. With the unlimited and the pick'em, you could just ride that league all season long and it was no big deal. Whereas with drafts, people are like, all right, let's do a draft for this stage and let's do a new draft for this stage and just kind of start over. Or they want to do test drafts. And the other leagues, it's just like you do whatever you do and you make it one time and you're good to go. So I think that kind of brought its numbers up a little bit, but also like, obviously the people that do the drafting are the more passionate players. And when it comes to standard versus raw scoring, I'd say, I think it was a little bit over 80% chose standard over raw. People really like that standard format. Raw was just more for the hardcore, the people that really want to pay attention to when a player is going to play. They're the ones that make sure they're subscribed to all the Twitter feeds and like they really watch everything, and it requires a lot more effort. And we're introducing a new type this season to kind of coincide with the fact that it's best of 5 or first of 4, I guess you would say. And no, wait, it's best of 5, right?
Well, it would be first to 3 at this point.
First
but yeah,
to
best
3.
of 5. But they like to use the terminology first to 3.
Yeah. So what we're going to do this season for that is introduce a third league scoring type, and that's going to be best 3 games in the series. So this way, if a team is killing it and they only play 3 games, a better player can score better than an average player in the league. So it's going to be one of the modifiers that we're going to let people have. And that's a huge change in this year is we're going to enable the creators of the leagues to toggle all kinds of switches and control everything, because we're going to do the scoring at a league level, whereas before it was on a league type level. It's like we'd run scores for all the standard leagues and we'd run scores for all the raw leagues and everything. This time, each league is going to be scored on its own accord, so we can do all kinds of fun stuff with. You can make your captain have double points, and you can just do weird shit like that. It just lets people kind of customize their experience.
Yeah, people love customization when it comes to, to football or to fantasy sports in general. I mean, you look at things from football, like touchdowns for some are 6 points, touchdowns for some are 4 points, stuff like that. People love, that's how you get the PPRs in football or stuff like that. It's just through customization. So yeah, the ability to like adjust the amount of points that you can get, or like you said, the captains be like earning double, or is there a way to adjust? How do I put this? A main tank player, because that's like the big difference right now is main tanks and off tanks. Obviously, off tanks are more valuable in fantasy. Overwatch, can you like designate like main tank, off tank, and then like a main tank player, you can adjust the points for them? Or is that just too
that's not going to be available this season for sure. It is a great idea, but with the fact that we're fighting even just for scraps in the API at this point, and then the inordinate amount of work that this thing is to make happen it's pretty insane how much work goes into these. And another thing that I wanted to point out about the customization is the fact that with esports, especially fantasy and Overwatch, like last season, there was no scoring system for fantasy Overwatch. We had to sit there, and I actually worked with Deathblow a lot. We went back and forth trying to figure out what would be a sensible system, one that players can kind of do math in their head to make work, as well as like truly apply to things. So like the reason we didn't have death penalty is it's a team sport. So when one of you dies, a lot of times the other 4 or the other 5 will toss in their lives, and that shouldn't be a penalty. It's just a standard flow of the game. So it took a lot of work to come up with like a formula that kind of made sense. And then I kind of want to do the same thing with leagues now to see which switches get flipped so that we can kind of figure out what the standard should be in terms of how leagues are structured with esports going forward. Because right now everybody just has best guess, and we're modeling things off of NFL or whatever other sport. And there's so many assumptions that I think it'd be better for our community if we can come up with a way that we can collect data and see what players really enjoy, and then just start tuning it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I know like one of the scoring parameters maybe I would look at as like a bonus would be getting like a team kill, essentially. Being able to fully wipe the enemy team, hearing that gone on in the middle of the game. Just because like we honestly don't really see it a ton like from like an individual player, so maybe like a bonus in that way would be kind of interesting, because it would be kind of like an anomaly in a lot of situations.
I actually have one quick question. Are you able to and this is something way beyond what I know, are you able to like track how long someone's on fire for, or is that just not something feasible?
That's not in the data at all.
Okay, I was gonna say, because that could be.
Yeah, we don't even have damage blocked, much less like any of that cool ancillary stuff.
Yeah. Like we don't even have damage blocks, so let's reel it back on how much Overwatch League is giving us.
So in this case, Ed, would you use that as a like multiplier parameter for your point totals?
Yeah, you could. I mean, there's a bunch of ways you could go about like percentage on fire over, let's say over 2 minutes straight on fire or something like that. Yeah, I'm not saying it'd be a massive bonus, but like in certain leagues, let's say you are in other sports that for football, rushing. Once you hit 100 yards, you get 2 extra points just for hitting that 100-yard mark. And then that's it. Just give a little bit, like have that plateau mark that you really want to hit. And, I'm just trying to think of crazy, weird things that could. But like you said, we don't even have blocking from Blizzard yet.
Yeah, like honestly, the API is by far the biggest hurdle in all of this. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that it's public, but it's not supported. Like we have no guarantee on data structure, data time, data anything. We just kind of hope. Like there's no reason whatsoever that Blizzard couldn't just kill off that feed and then tank all these fantasy platforms.
Mhm.
Because it's not like a traditional sport where you can watch the game and then kind of aggregate some stats, or there's nothing physical and real about it. Like you would just be guessing game completely. And they have that power, and it's kind of scary. It's actually really scary.
Well, let's look at the positives. Over this past season, we actually did see a lot of community embrace, and I know Ramses has been pretty quiet, but like, we did see like a number of teams actually going out and looking for like featured leagues, trying to enter in the
Mhm.
mix, whether it was through like pick'ems or unlimited drafts, and we got to see like quite a bit of traffic being brought to the platform. Now, whether or not they were like advertising it on social media, I'm not too sure about, but it seemed like as a whole, we had a lot of the Team Overwatch League discords really taking a liking to the idea behind Fantasy Overwatch League. So I'm really hoping that we see all 20 teams kind of like enter the fold on that front going into, what will be High Noon 3.0 this season.
Yeah, it's actually interesting on that point because we've seen like responses all over the board. So we've had teams approach us and ask to kind of ramp up their involvement with the featured leagues and everything. And then we've had other teams that weren't on the platform that we hit up, and they would be like, well, we don't believe we're allowed to. And I think there's like this lack of information on what they can and cannot do, and assumptions being made, and depends on who you talk to. And it would be amazing to just have them have that flexibility and understanding that they could help grow their communities, because I think fantasy is what's going to make it remain watchable over time.
Mhm.
I think that's the real big differentiator, that for whatever reason, Blizzard's not going to release a fantasy platform, but even if they did, that it would be hamstringed in the fact that you'd win tokens or something very game centric. Whereas with High Noon, I think the goal is more to just build esports as a platform, just kind of build those communities up. That's really the primary reason that we exist, is to just create this toolbox to create as much fun around the game as we can to help propel interest in it forward. And I actually originally had a call scheduled with Blizzard, and then they did that mass layoff last year, and that guy went poof. So I haven't heard from anybody since, but it would be nice to be able to work with them and just be like, hey, I don't need much. Just give me guaranteed API integrity and say I can go for it, and I'll do all the work. I don't mind. But that's what we're hoping for, is some kind of way of getting high enough on the rung to where we can reach the people that matter, that can kind of give us some permanence.
Well, and I think you nailed it on the head with fantasy makes it stay watchable. Because I even know with football, like I catch myself watching games all the time just because I have my third string wide receiver who I picked up on a flex is playing that day. So that would definitely help. I know that's one of the big concerns going into season 3 is how are we going to get viewership to remain consistent across like all these different games. And it's one of those things where I feel bad with how stuff goes down with Blizzard like that, and it's something I think we're almost used to, but it never stops being frustrating. We're in that, like, we know, like, we still don't know if 3 days before the season comes out they're going to announce some sort of platform. Like, it's one of those kind of up in the air things that happens with Blizzard all the time with this game. But
hell, we don't even have the rosters yet.
Or what the broadcast terms are.
Yeah, like, we don't even know who's actually still in the league. So, yeah, they could come out like 2 days before and be like, here's our fantasy website.
Well, and we were even talking, I was talking with some people about it. Like, you can go in their API even, and like, it's not even like it's not even like sort of updated. It's like half done. There's like, you go in, we're like, there's players who have who have transferred teams that are still on their home teams, but yet there's other teams that have completely updated rosters. There's like,
right.
That's the thing that I think has been so frustrating about across the board and has given you so many headaches, I'm sure, is just the amount of stuff that just never gets taken care of or doesn't get taken care of when it needs to be.
Yeah, and it is weird because like if you look at the API right now, if you look at the schedule, it shows the 2019 schedule, but all of the headshots and even the team names, the team icons, all have 2020 in them. But on last year, the website and the app were both powered by the same API, and that API was actually controlled by their front end team, the UI UX team that developed the website. They're like, we need these endpoints. We can use it for an app too. And they're like, sweet. The scary part being this season, the API that's generating that schedule is private only. It's not accessible. It's done through AWS, and we don't have access to what generates that schedule that you're seeing on their website now. So I'm hoping they don't move everything that direction, or if they do, they provide a developer program so we can get authentication to get into those. But the trend right now is terrifying as far as like all this work going into it, and all the APIs for the next app iteration may be private. In which case, maybe we'll go back to just pick them. I have no idea.
Because they can't hide that shit.
That's right.
Like you're not allowed to see the end of the matches.
Right.
Sucks to be you. But I mean, if they do go private with it, there will be a massive uproar. Like, yes, there was an uproar from, broken API, but not nearly as much of an uproar as if nobody got any of the information.
Right.
But that's enough negative things.
Right. Positive stuff.
Positive.
My bad.
It's just been weighing on my mind.
It's okay. You have to be negative because you suck at fantasy.
See, Soul Drink, this is what like every episode is just like Ed being like, so here's what we're talking about today. Ramses, you suck. Anyways, like back into the normal topic.
At least it rolls off the shoulders.
But it's also the truth. I mean, you took first place because Totem carried your team.
But didn't he take first place?
A win is a win.
Oh, we did.
Totem and Ramses shared a team. That's like
a win is a win.
That's like the Dodgers claiming the World Series now because the Astros got caught cheating 2 years ago. Yeah.
I was actually gonna ask, Soul Drink, now that we're moving into like a strict 2-2-2 meta for, I mean, we can assume the entire season. How has that made any significant balance changes for you now that you don't have to worry about people switching positions or like going between different kind of stat lines?
No, it shouldn't affect things too much. Luckily, we kind of nailed in the 2-2-2 at the beginning of last season, to a lot of chagrin actually, but ended up being a great foresight. And the way the scores are calculated was based purely on damage and healing, and the role that was assigned to them in the APIs would determine their points. So we didn't really have to do much. It was just kind of automated based on how it scored. But it will be interesting to see now that things are locked in. If we can get that reliable data, I think we can start doing a lot more fun things. Like there's no reason we are going to have playoffs this year, which we didn't have last year. That was kind of a big letdown, but it was just so many fires going everywhere that there's just no time to code it. And I also have somebody helping with some of the features of the site now, so it's not just me, which makes things infinitely better. Thank you, Crow.
Now, one thing I will ask. One of the new features is something I think everyone was one of the most requested things was the app, mobile usage. How hard was it to implement getting it like an app for all of this? Like not only dealing with all the new stuff you're bringing in and all the coding with that, but then to also have a mobile version out there.
So whenever you're a small team like I am, you kind of have to triage every decision you make when it comes to allocating your time to make something. And what I ended up doing was I chose a framework that works. So I have a single code base for everything. And you guys will see when you're in the alpha about it's going to feel snappy even on the web on your phone. It's going to feel like an app even at that stage. And the way this has been developed is honestly, I've barely looked at desktop right now. I'm going to have a phase where I just clean up desktop right before launch, but the mobile view is how everything's intended and designed to work so that in your worst case scenario, it's completely and utterly usable. That's kind of where I wanted to go. If you're sitting on the toilet, like I know you like to do, and do your draft stuff, you can completely do every action effortlessly, and it's designed to do it that way. So last night I was able to do a full live draft on my phone, no issues whatsoever with it. So the goal is just really make anybody be able to play from anywhere and just let them have a good time doing it without all the frustrations of it kind of works on mobile. The scores are out of sync with what you see on desktop or whatever. All that's going to go away. And so basically I just created a platform that is single code base, and then I can wrap it for iOS, wrap it for Android, give you guys some push notifications, and really just go from there. But it's looking really good.
Now, you talked about push notifications and whatnot. Will you is it set up for, is it general, all push notifications? Like all these ad drops, any player news, stuff like that, set up that way? Or can it be specific to just your team?
So the plan with the push notifications is there's 2 tiers when it comes to push notifications. You have the phone traditional tier of push notification that actually comes to the network, and even if your app's not running, it'll hit your phone. And those ones I'd like to reserve for something extremely special. I don't want you guys to be hammered with a bunch of annoying notifications all the time. The second type of notification is what's called an internal notification. And that's when you've had the app running or it's been running in the background or recently. And these notifications, I'm just going to let you guys toggle a bunch of switches. So you can get player updates, team updates, as well as one where the commissioner of a league can push a push notification to all of his members if he needs to say something or do something or make fun of someone or whatever needs to be done.
I call dibs on being commissioner of every league I'm in.
That's the terrible
I can't
idea.
wait for Ed to make fun of me.
It would just be a daily occurrence.
Yeah, and I'm assuming this all goes with like trades or trade offers, stuff like that. That was probably the biggest thing for me last season. Is like I love trying to trade, but they would never know when they would have a trade. So having like the notifications is massive. It was probably the thing I wanted that more than a mobile app myself.
So that's actually a third tier of notification that we'll have as well.
Ooh.
So if you don't have push notifications or just standard phone notifications, you'll have your little profile bubbles that you see like on messengers and everything when you have things that are happened. So it's just going to sit there on the top of your bubble in a red circle until you clear them. So you can be like, oh, there's trades happening or whatever when you're on the app. So you don't have to wade through all your notifications all the time.
So would that be next to the crown I earned last year for winning stage 2?
Yeah, I have a feeling I'm gonna have to make you a special one though.
I feel you should. And I will wear that proudly.
It'll say Ramsey across the top.
Oh,
Woo!
dang it. No, I mean, I saw all these changes coming up, and everything. I'm just like, oh, this is amazing. Now, how do the paid leagues work? Because that's something I actually did not expect.
You just pay me money for when I win. That's basically how it works.
Correct. Basically. So the thing about the paid leagues is you get into gambling for state basis, and then you also have the fact that we're international. So when it comes to paid leagues, we ended up going a route where we're more like a facilitator. We're not going to hold money. We're just going to kind of create like systems to help you track money, to understand, and then as well as like embedded Venmo and PayPal links. So however you want to handle and coordinate the money, but we are not going to be an escrow service for that because legal headaches would be everywhere at that point. We're just we're just creating a glorified league calculator that's going to keep track of everybody's money and what they should get paid out and all that stuff for them.
Oh, okay, so like if Totem's the commissioner, we all send him the money, but then the calculator's like at the end, this is how much this person's paid, this. So on and so forth.
Exactly. Yeah, because similar to how like regular fantasy works when you're not supposed to be using money in your state or whatever. You have your guy that you handle.
That's why you're just based out of New Jersey, like DraftKings.
Right.
You know? So all you need to do now, Soul Drink, is move to New Jersey.
No.
No?
Thanks.
No? All right.
Yeah, that's
fair enough.
That's
I
a hard
do
sell
not
for
blame
anyone.
you.
Yeah.
Nothing good happens in New Jersey anyway.
Fist pumping?
Jesus Christ.
Not even that.
No?
No.
God. You're killing me here, Smalls. You're killing me. So, of all the changes you made, what was the most difficult to actually implement?
Mobile first.
Mobile.
Because it's not like I updated last season. 98% of the code is new. It's more like this time I actually had a roadmap, so the development was far smoother. Whereas last year I was poking around in the dark, like, how is this draft going to work? How is everything going to work? Because none of it exists really. Whereas now it's like, okay, here's my roadmap. Here's all the stuff that didn't work last season. Here's the things I knew I could do better. And it's just been far smoother development process this time.
All right, so, looking at some of the other features we have come in, I mean, we pretty much touched on a lot of stuff already outside of gamification. Now, I know this was something that was a fairly decent emphasis in regards to, like, the daily format. I know with High Noon, it was primarily, like, earning trophies in regards to getting, like, a top 3, top 5 finish or whatever in, respective leagues, whether it was, like, an unlimited draft, or just in your standard league. So what exactly are we going to be looking at in regards to this? Is it like an achievement type system where maybe you're earning stuff for like browsing the website, like watching videos or anything like that?
Yeah, it's going to be achievement based with experience points, and then we'll probably have plans for tiers and leveling, just like you would for anything else, but just give them access to certain prizes or certain leagues or certain fun things that only people that are really active on the website be able to earn. But for the most part, it's going to be, similar to like Minecraft achievements. You're going to place a draft and it's going to be like, you drafted your first player. Here's X amount of experience points kind of thing. Really just to kind of help people get that reward itch that everything's training into kids nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you should subtract achievement points if people just keep drafting from Boston.
Maybe.
Just
Take them away.
M God and Color Hex was a good pick at one point. You could even do the reverse. You could even do reverse achievement points. Every 3 games that I lose, it could be like, all right, we're gonna take away 100 achievement points from you, just because you clearly.
Yeah, I loved season 1 Boston, but it's been questionable ever since.
Season 1 minus he who must not be named.
Right.
Mhm.
But that kind of, I don't know. The TMZ stuff kind of keeps everything out there too, in headlines.
Oh, for sure. And then, eventually everyone will get enough points and then it will just be called Ednar level. That's the top level.
What Soul Drink isn't mentioning is the hardest thing that he had in regards to like implement to the site was a spot big enough for Ed's ego. Like he's still working on it. We don't know like how far along in regards to the work it is, or whether or not it's even going to be ready for this season. Maybe by like 2050 we'll have enough of a head start at that point in order to contain him at that point. I don't know.
Can you imagine the server cost just to hold Ed's ego on the internet?
It's insane. I am supposed to ask you from our Twitch chat, Soul, how much do you love iPhones?
Yeah. So
now I will say this is from your own team that helps you develop.
I know exactly who this. And even Kicked Tripod gave me a special role on his servers called I Love iPhones. So it's a very well-known fact. Just as far as from a developer standpoint, there's a lot of black box with iPhones, and I hate every second of working with iPhones. But there's a lot of iPhone people out there, so my hand is forced. Actually, just yesterday we found an iPhone 11 bug that's only on iPhone 11 for some reason, so we got to figure out that one. Just adds 2 inches of white to the bottom of the app for no reason. So
Screw those rich bastards.
yeah, I call it idiot tax.
I've actually been wondering, Soul Drink. I know, of course, Ed loved to lord over his premium status on the site with his advanced APIs and everything. What is going into season 3? How is stuff going to change for premium members from last year?
So yeah, we actually killed off the Patreon, and the reason we killed off the Patreon didn't work, so to speak, is more like eventually we want to offer more than just being a premium tier. Like we want to let people buy some shirts or do who knows what, and I wanted to like centralize all of the money moving through the site into one entity. And then at the same time, since I told you the development is really slow in the off season, I didn't feel right taking money when nothing was happening. So I just closed it down to simplify that. And yeah, we'll be opening up the premium tiers again with similar rewards and then some. And that's all you get to know right now. So we're gonna be doing a lot of fun stuff down the road, and right now we're just putting all the pieces in place. So I don't want to.
You're just waiting longer than Overwatch League is to announce its casters.
Basically.
Right. To be fair, though, I don't even know if I'm gonna have data when the league starts. So that's a fair thing.
That is also a fair point.
So I guess the real question at that point would become, should an issue arise, can I still have a paid league in Pick'ems? So I still have a way of getting money.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, we can. Okay.
Paid leagues will be for all 3 formats.
All right, good to know.
And I also see on our discussion list here the league activity logs. You'll be happy to know everything major or minor that happens in the league will be registered in a new history tab. So you can see who was drafted when, you can see when a draft was started, when the draft start date was changed. You can see all kinds of crazy stuff, player trades, everything's going to be that history. So you just have like this global entity to see what's been happening with your league that you can do, as well as I'm planning on implementing a feature so that when you visit a league, you'll have a user preference and it'll load whatever tab you visit most first. So like if you come in and you always hit your roster, if you come in or you always hit history, you can just go straight into that without having to sit there and wait for the main message to load or whatever is going on in the league.
That is nice.
Yeah, it'll be nice to know whenever someone is getting picked up or dropped, rather than, you know, kind of like having the waiver wire process and then being like, oh, I guess I didn't get him, and then not knowing like who ended up getting that player in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, waiver wire history will also be posted on there, and each one's going to have its own like classification. So you can say only show me waiver wires or only show me whatever style logs you want to see to make sure that you don't miss anything.
Now, one other thing I also remember requested a lot last year is waiver wire pickups. Is it going to be able to be? Is that something you're allowed to change? In per league, like whether you want it to be whoever's in last place in the league gets first waiver wire priority, or whoever did the worst that week gets top waiver wire priority. How is the waiver wire pickup order going to be done?
Currently, it is set only for the last place to get first priority style. And it goes by record, then total points accrued.
So I'm screwed. I'm not going to be able to pick up anyone.
Just tank the start.
But that's only for the initial waiver wire pickup, like the first one.
The first one will be reverse of draft order,
Yeah. And then, but like it does like the waiver wire pickup on Tuesdays, I think it was.
Yeah, I believe it'll still be Tuesdays. I'm going to look over the schedule again. This schedule is like a nightmare for fantasy as far as development is all about finding patterns and everything, and there is no patterns in the schedule and how everything's working. And
Yeah.
for whatever reason, Blizzard's being extremely close to the vest with all their information regarding Overwatch League this year, as far as those kind of things that we'd care about for fantasy. So I'm hoping they are just really trying to lock everything down or have something awesome to show us. Honestly, I'd be fine with that too.
It'll come like 3 days before.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It'll be the last paragraph of a preseason announcement that doesn't actually happen. The other thing I wanted to ask about Soul Drink is that actually, I think just today, if I had the announcement correctly, you guys announced your closed alpha for season 3, correct?
Yes, we are going to be starting that at the latest on Saturday. I'm going to do everything I can to prep it before that, but at the latest this Saturday. Because we have a lot of the major components done. We have live drafting there and away, so the automated drafting's all working. Your player preference list, a lot of the major chunks are there. I'm just trying to make the experience a little better. Even though it's an alpha, I generally like to leave things really rough on alphas so that if one of you guys comes up with a great idea, I'm not undoing a bunch of detail work that didn't need to happen to begin with. So yeah, latest will be Saturday for that.
Sweet. And then I know you guys, if people are interested from hearing this, they can find the entry link, quote unquote. I know that there's a forum question you have to answer correctly to get the key into the beta, well, in the alpha, excuse me. So if you can rack your brain for some correct stats, you have a shot at getting in.
Yes, or just bug the right people. Maybe the people that ask iPhone questions.
That would be a Sneaky Crow.
Oh yeah,
Bug
he's a good one to
him.
bug. Bug Sneaky Crow or Gig. Bug
Yes.
Gig as much as you can.
Yeah. Preferably between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m.
Right. When I work on high noon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to distract him from bugging you at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So what is your guys' favorite thing about fantasy? Fantasy Overwatch.
Well, I know Ed's gonna be like bragging rights.
I love. I don't know if you've been able to tell. I love to trash talk. And even if my team sucks, I'm still gonna trash talk because you know what? It's just fun banter. I like the banter back and forth between people, between leagues and stuff like that. And I like the analytics of stuff. I like the form of drafting. It's I'm a weird person. I prefer the NFL draft to the NFL. Like I love that aspect of it over the actual games being played. So fantasy fits right into my wheelhouse in all aspects. I mean, hell, I play fantasy golf. So they're sick of me talking about fantasy golf, but it's coming up soon.
Oh dear.
So you
But
guys
it
are
makes
gonna hear
sense.
about it again.
It'd be easier to write for than Overwatch, so.
Probably. So that's why I love it.
I know
from
from
guys.
I was just going to say for me personally, I think it's being able to interact with players, not like actually interact with them, but kind of getting to form a mental perspective about players that I have an interest in, but that aren't actually on my team of choice. So I think about I'm trying to think like with Overwatch League last year, I became like the world's biggest aim god fan because he carried my team for like 6 weeks straight and then proceeded to sit out the entire rest of the season.
Oh yeah.
So like you start to kind of form this mental connection to these players where you start getting excited to see them play, even when they're not on your specific team of choice. And then like what Ed said, the drafts are just always the most fun part. Just getting everybody in the room to hear Bob yell at all of us and hear Ed yell at the rest of them. And
well, hey, at least if Bob needs to draft from the airport this season, he'll be able to do it from his phone.
That is true. Yeah, because we do last year. I don't know if you tuned in or not, or if you guys heard about it. We got a bunch of the Overwatch podcasters and from the other, Blevins and Death Blow and stuff like that, and we did a live draft on Twitch between all of us, and that was so much fun.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing I want to do is just create as many tools that help facilitate fun without getting in the way or adding things that just clutter up the screen. So feedback is by far the most important thing you can do. Is private message me on Discord. I love it. Just tell me how you feel, good, bad, whatever. And like I said, right now is a really good time. If you get in the alpha, just let me know and we can still swing big sticks around.
Yeah, and treat this like an actual alpha, not an Overwatch alpha. Like, actually test things out.
Well, I'm gonna hop on for like 5 seconds and then just abandon
don't be
it.
like, "Ooh, I logged on and I'm done." The login process was smooth. Good job.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. So really, when it comes to where the future of High Noon's going, I think the ideal situation for me would be to get us to the point where we matter as far as like an entity, the fantasy esports entity. Like, I would like for us to have some clout on being adamant that we have APIs with solid data, that we can grow it to the point where there's merchandise around it, where people talk about that at work instead of just NFL. Like, that's really where I would like to see things go. And I'm willing to do whatever amount of work we need to help create as much fun so you invite as many people into it so we can keep growing, so that we can actually get to this point where it's like, hey, Blizzard, here's 100,000 people that are participating on this site. You should really think about leveraging this in some way, giving us more data. Like League of Legends, they expose all their data for APIs so that people, specifically for fantasy, and it would be really nice to have this game hop on that bandwagon.
That really would.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, like, I am planning probably at some point within next week. I know a lot of us don't like the frequent Reddit, especially the competitive Overwatch one. But I do want to put together a thread in regards to Fantasy Overwatch League when it comes to the resources, obviously the platforms, other, useful tools that we have used, whether it is for content creation or like bet insights if you want to lean that way in regards to, tip in for like pick'ems, things like that. And, maybe we can get some traction that way as well, outside of just if an issue should happen with the API, which is really like one of the fewer times that like people were actively talking about Foul at the time. So hopefully we can get the word out and maybe we could bump it up a little bit so we can get some higher prioritization, at least on Blizzard's end. But, who knows? Like many things, it's kind of like just to close your eyes and just hope for the best, like we are with the stats.
Yeah, and there's one other small feature I added that I'm curious to get you guys' opinion on. When creating a league, this feature may or may not stick around just because it's questionable, but I put a min score option. So it softens the blow of players that don't play. So in other words, instead of getting 0 points, maybe you give them 20 points, or maybe you give them 30 points, or something that's guaranteed to be lower than the people playing. But I don't know, there's a lot of, the only reason I even created to begin with was there's a lot of feedback for people that aren't necessarily NFL drafters or other esports drafters, where 2 of their players didn't even play, even though they had played the weeks before, like Aim God. And then they felt like it just blew the whole wad. Like they didn't have any interest in it anymore.
I don't mind that if there's something in there where if they've been out for 2-3 weeks in a row, like they haven't gotten anything for like 2-3 weeks, and you're still starting them, then that's on you. If they're not playing for 3 weeks in a row, I don't think they should have a minimum, because at that point,
not a bad idea.
Because at that point, you're starting them, Gig and Pine, Surefour, even like people stuck around with Surefour for a long time, and he wasn't even playing, but they just stuck him in there. But dude hasn't played in 3 weeks. Why? Like, I get like the Aim God situation for the first week or two, but after that, it's like that's on you. but like it does suck that like that 1 week is, and I think it's needed because we don't get lineups.
Right. That's what I mean. Like
From
with
the
traditional
team.
From a
sports, you have
majority of
that
them,
lineup. Yeah.
Yeah, so like if you were starting, what was the one? It was with Dallas. I think it
Oh,
was.
if you were starting Unko and then all of a
Unko.
sudden Harry Hook was playing.
Yeah, you started Unko, and they didn't say that he had an issue with his eye, but he did, and he just sat. Well, everyone had Unko in the lineup, and he was out that week, but nobody knew until they were on stage. Like you're like, well, shit. So
Right.
that in that instance, yes, I think that would be good. And then if you're out for like if after like 2 weeks of not playing, that third week you don't get the 20 whatever. That would be
Okay.
me.
So maybe I can add an additional option where you could put the handicap, and then you can put expires after 3 games, 2 games, 1 game.
Yeah, where you would
Kinda
like
thing.
set like a cap to like how many points you could accrue from that method essentially over the course of the season.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because it is much more difficult because traditional sports, you're like, oh yeah, here's the lineup. We can cater our team to that. Whereas
Yeah.
in
They're
Overwatch League.
required to actually post this stuff.
yeah, in Overwatch League, the requirement is 3 hours before for your starting 6, I believe, and then no notice for substitutions mid games. So
And they don't need to notify anyone except the actual league
right,
who their starting 6 is. So it's
exactly.
like, oh, here's a giant middle finger to you guys.
Exactly. So with those kind of things, I'm just trying to figure out ways of addressing the sting that these penalties incur. So
Now, the other thing that we've actually already seen kind of firsthand up until this point is actually you guys focusing a lot more on on-site content being added. So I know you guys recently had put out a feeler in regards to picking up some new writers. I don't know like how much you open it up per se, but like we've already noticed some familiar names. Like I know Dolky was in chat earlier, who does Fantasy Overwatch Underground. He had a recent article, and there's probably already been like 4 or maybe even 5 up until this point within probably the past week and a half. So like what are you looking to start to add in regards to like the data when it comes to like on-site content for High Noon?
So the biggest reason for the on-site content is the same reason that I'm building the platform, which is if we want to truly start developing a community, we got to create this interactive narrative that happens through these articles. And the other aspect of that is we're trying to use premium memberships and everything to pay the writers so they're getting paid for what they do, so that it kind of helps facilitate the esports in general. Like just raise the bar as far as like how we can help grow fantasy everything, because these guys put in a ton of time into understanding these players, the dynamics, the teams, the relationships. And in every other sport out there, you can get compensated pretty well for that. So we're just going to try to start putting in these seeds that help the growth of esports, really. I mean, that's the goal here, is make fantasy esports badass. It just needs to be badass.
I applaud that. That's awesome that you're actually planning on paying, because this is not the type of situation where a lot of people like content creators for Overwatch generally don't get paid.
Right.
Like, so it's nice to hear somebody's actually planning on that. So that's good.
Yeah, we have a minimum that we're going to pay them. And of course, if they're more active or anything we can do to raise more money, for right now, every dollar is just going into growth. Not really don't make anything off the site other than just learning from the stack that I'm programming in. It's really just about, fostering that community.
Mm-hmm. And something to kind of tie in with that, and this is something that I have an issue with personally, at least with the Discord, is I honestly don't know where I should be posting when it comes to resources. Obviously, going into this season, we know that there are minimum 4 different Fantasy Overwatch League podcasts that will be recording on a weekly basis. Can we get some sort of channel to kind of focus on the content creator side, whether it is, just articles on a site, whether it is podcast episodes, YouTube videos, whatever. That way it's not kind of just lost in the shuffle, because that's the one issue that I'm having right now, is I generally turn to like the general chat, and then obviously that's where the majority of the conversations is actually happening, so it just kind of gets lost in the fold on that front.
Yeah, I'll put it up there tonight. The other thing is, we try to encourage our community to be more, I guess, just lax. Like we have I don't know if you've hung out in the High Noon Discord much, but like we have 0 bad seeds. Like we don't have any bad apples, which is crazy considering we get to the point where we have over 1,000 people online. And I think part of that is just being flexible on whatever the community needs. So if you guys feel like we need a podcast channel, then yeah, we'll put that in there today and let you guys post all you want in there. We encourage self-promotion. Like I encourage everybody to try all the fantasy platforms. Anything they can do to love fantasy esports is what we're going to aim for. So check out Draft Buff. They're putting a lot of effort into that. I've been talking to the 2 guys making that, and they're taking it very seriously. They're really wanting to grow, and they've got funding, and I think that'll be a good thing, but it's the same problems everybody else is having with APIs and everything, and just knowing. So we gotta make as loud of noise as we can on these platforms, grow them as fast as we can to just make it a completely idiotic thing to do to take away our data.
Absolutely. And I will say, like, even if other podcasters don't make use of the self-promo channel or whatever we end up labeling it, every week I basically do a podcast listing of all the Overwatch content, even if it's just me listing the URLs each week to, the main platforms. I have no problem doing that as well, should they not make use of it, so everyone can, pick and choose whatever content they want to consume at that point as well.
Yeah, I'll have that channel for you guys tonight.
All right,
Sweet.
so I personally don't have any other questions. Whether or not anyone in chat has any that they would like to ask you.
Ed, do you want
Minus
to?
you, Giger Crow. You already got me in trouble with one question with the iPhone.
Ed, you should ask Soul Drink your random question for the week.
Ooh. What is going to be my random question for the week? Okay. Random question of the week. Who is Anakin Skywalker's grandpa? No, it would be Luke Skywalker's grandpa. Who's Luke Skywalker's grandpa?
I have no idea. I don't think you understand how much I program and work. I literally wake up at 7, go to work at 8, work till 5, and then work from 6 to 3 on High Noon and go to bed.
I will say this: the movie where it was Star Wars movie there where it was is the prequels, Episode 1.
Well, and even then, Soul Drink, we usually ask this at the end as like our closing thing, but we figure since you were here.
So who is Luke's grandpa? Ramses, do you know?
Besides Palpatine?
Palpatine.
I don't even know who Palpatine is.
What the shit? You don't know who Emperor Palpatine is?
All right, Totem, start going to the closing notes.
Hold on.
Start going before Ed takes it over.
Emperor Palpatine is like, he created Darth Vader. Wait, hold on. Do you know who Darth Vader is?
Yes.
Okay, so Darth Vader was Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker turned to the dark side. Anakin Skywalker's mom was you know what the Force is, right?
Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry that we brought you on our Overwatch League show to shame you about Star Wars.
Palpatine
I'm sorry.
used the Force to impregnate Anakin Skywalker's mom. So it was a Force baby. So Palpatine would be Anakin's dad, and thus making Luke Skywalker his grandson.
Palpatine sounds like a senior citizen's energy drink or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be.
Gig, please harass the living shit out of him for not knowing who Palpatine is for the end of days. Jesus Christ Almighty.
Yeah,
And on that note,
it's spelled differently. It's not Shmi in that regard. But anyways, yeah, or like Smee, whatever. But anyways, so again, I do want to thank you again for taking, a little bit over an hour of your time. I know it's crunch time. We got a couple of weeks until the Overwatch League officially launches. Hopefully, we'll have more information soon in regards to like what calendar's coming in, where we can watch, all of that good stuff. But of course, we will always be hanging out over in the Discord and communicating with everyone over at High Noon Fantasy. So thank you again on that front.
Absolutely, no problem. And like I said, anybody out there, anybody anywhere, just hit me up if you have any questions, suggestions, anything. I love it all.
So with that being said, guys, we are going to close out the show for tonight. So if you guys want to help us out, the best thing to do for really any podcast out there, head over to iTunes or your podcasting app of choice. Leave us and write us a review. We are always looking for ways to improve the show to make for a better listening experience for you guys. Now, I will note, once the season does get underway, obviously the structure of the podcast is going to look completely different. Because it won't be primarily, platform specific or, interview based for the most part. So stay tuned for the other segments that we will be reintroducing in just a couple of weeks. But if you guys are looking for additional Overwatch related content, we do Overwatch Recall. That is a podcast directory focusing on Overwatch, Overwatch League, Fantasy Overwatch League, as well as Path to Pro podcast. And then every Sunday, we do the weekly recall, which has all of the episodic listens for all of those podcasts. So for more info, check us out on Twitter at OW Recall. But of course, guys, you could support us a number of different ways. So Ramses, I'm going to throw it over to you. How can our listeners help out the show further?
Here, let me just minimize Ed really quick. All right, so there we go. So the best, besides the reviews, wait, who is that? I can't even tell in the photo.
Don't
the first
give
one
in.
was Justin Timberlake in his Canadian tuxedo, and then the next one was Alec Baldwin in his Canadian tuxedo.
You know what? You wear a denim jacket and jeans 2 times around Ed, and all of a sudden that's your defining
You not only
personality
wore them
trait.
around me, you wore them to BlizzCon.
Mm-hmm. This is
Yeah.
true. I was there. It happened.
So
Anyways, if you'd like to support us, another way you can do so is by supporting us on Patreon. We have a bunch of different tiers starting at just $1 a month, and you can find any info you need at patreon.com/OWL Network. We have a bunch of different things we offer for all those different tiers, but you can join the likes of our master and above patrons, including Blazing Bob, Brendan, Josebo, Owl, Kesha, and Agent Life, in helping our network grow. And then also we have another announcement for the end of this month on January 25th. Game Night's going to be making a comeback. So I think somebody even made the point it's going to be on the Lunar New Year. So that'll be fun. But Game Night on January 25th. What I hear Snickers. Game Night on January 25th. That Saturday, and we'll be doing a bunch of different custom and workshop games starting at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And if you want to come out and hang out with us in the lobby beforehand, please do. I know it's always fun hanging out with the boys and hearing Ed and Totem ramble and talk to each other and interjecting my own ramblings in there myself. And we're even going to stream the matches on the Twitch channel at Owl and Show.
Absolutely.
all right. I'm just gonna go into my spiel now because I guess I am the master at the contacting the show. So it's like I do this twice a week, even though I always ask Totem questions regarding what I read because it's just second nature to me at this point. So you can reach us through email at contact@owlonshow.com. We are on Twitter, and that's at OWL by the numbers. We do have a website where we post everything, and that's at www.owlonshow.com. We do have a YouTube where we post all of our stuff. It's Spider sometimes posts stuff when he's not in the Abyss at youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. You can come join us on our Discord and harass us at discord.me/OWL show. Make sure to join that if you want to participate in game night. We are streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWL show. We are a Twitch affiliate, so help support the show by subscribing to our channel and earn our network emoticon. We do stream pretty regularly, so Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, it's the Overwatch League Network. Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, it will be this show, OWL by the Numbers. Next week, we are joined by Chris Fowl from FantasyOWL.com. On Wednesdays, we have the show Totem and myself do together. That's Heroes Never Die at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then host streams, when available, run on a flex schedule, so be sure to follow us on Twitch and on Discord to know when we are going live. And like Sir Ramsey said, we are on Patreon, so patreon.com/OWL Network. Go over there, help us out. Even further, starting out just $1 a month. You can contact me personally on Twitter at EdinarOverwatch or on Twitch at twitch.tv/Edinar. Ramses, where can they find you at?
You can find me at Ramses_OW. And you can find the other show at PushPointPod.
And as for myself, I'm on Twitter at TumblyDrunkCTR, and I do stream Monday, Wednesday, Thursday on Twitch at twitch.tv/TumblyDrunk. And still drink the man of the hour, of course. We can also contact High Noon Fantasy. I don't know if you guys have like a Discord, like .me for your Discord, but where can I get a hold of you?
Yeah, basically just go to highnoon.gg and you can find it in the header there. And then at Twitter, we're High Noon Fantasy.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for being with us here tonight. Always good to have a returning guest on the podcast with us. And I know all of us are looking forward to testing out the alpha. And of course, we'll be in contact should any issues arise on that front. But I do want to thank everyone again for joining us here tonight on OWL by the Numbers. You've been listening to episode number 34. And we'll see you guys back tomorrow night for our Atlantic North preview of the Overwatch League on Heroes Never Die. Take care and have a good night.
Peace out, y'all.
Later.